r/askreddit who died at your high school and how. My senior year, we organized a day trip to the beach. A group of about 15 of us decided to go on 2 SUVs. I was supposed to go, but something came up, and I ended up not being able to. My sister did go though. Come to find out that on the highway, the Ashats decide to start racing each other, each SUV filled with people. In the middle of this, the front driver's side tire on one of the SUVs blew out, and the car rolled at highway speed. Several friends were crushed, and others tossed out. My sister was in the other car, and saw her best friend die. Let's just say that for the few of us who keep in touch, it is still weird whenever anyone brings up pictures from our high school days, because some of our dead friends are always in them. My Spanish teacher in the 11th grade. She was 24, newly and pregnant. T-boned by a senior leaving school. So unfair. There was this kid Walter. I wouldn't say I was friends with him, but I was in the same general group of people. See, Walter was one of those weird kids at the crossroad between weirdo goth kids and theater geeks. The vast majority of people never gave Walter the time of day, and plenty of them gave him shit for no reason. Walter, though, was one of the nicest people you could ever meet. Absolutely genuine dude with not a single bad intention. His senior year, while riding his bike home, I believe from his girlfriend's house, Walter was hit and killed by a speeding driver. I'm from a small town. This is the sort of news that really shakes things up. All of a sudden, everybody was his grieving best friend. The sentiment was appreciated, but it made me sad to see all these people that wouldn't give this dude two thoughts when he was alive acting like they were the closest friends on earth. Hi, I know you were watching this, so I won't take much of your time. I post every day and I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs. A sub would be massively appreciated. If you like this video, please consider giving it a like. Also, I heart all comments. Thanks. Every day, a little bit of every teacher died. I went to a Catholic school, and, in my junior year, the school priest, who was in his 60s or 70s, found out he had a brain tumor. This was a huge deal at the school, and assemblies were held where other members of the faculty would pray over him. The school had a weird, hip, new Catholic thing going on. A lot of Christian rock was played, and whatnot. We were later told we were successful, and he had beaten his cancer, because they had prayed hard enough and God took the cancer away. There was an entire assembly praising the power of prayer, and how it can solve your problems, if it is God's will. The cancer killed him 2 weeks later. An acquaintance I'd known since 2nd grade was killed 2 years after graduation. He slipped on ice at a train station, and fell onto the tracks as a train was approaching. Poor dude never had a chance. Mind the fucking gap, people. I'm a senior now, but in the past 4 years I've been at my school at least 7 people have committed suicide. I think it might be higher, but a lot have been kept quiet, and I didn't know most of them. A really popular guy, I forget this name. He was very handsome, intelligent, had a lot of charisma, you know the type. He seemed nice enough, even though I never talked to him. He was a few grades above me. He had cancer, and it seemed like there was a new fundraiser every week to help him pay for his medications. In Canada, doctor's visits are covered, but you usually need to pay for prescriptions, unless you have a good drug plan, usually by selling candy or bracelets or stuff like that. He died just before he would have graduated. The entire graduating class honored him at the ceremony by insisting on a moment of silence in the time he would have walked across the stage between one name and the next. 2 kids committed suicide my senior year. One was a social outcast that no one knew. The other was a popular football player. The outcast's suicide was never officially mentioned by the school. The football player's suicide was treated with a lowered flag, a public announcement, a moment of silence, grief counselors and a 2-page memorial in the yearbook. A teacher in my high school got a heart attack during a student's vs teachers football match in front of the whole school. We have a ceremony in his memory every year. From my batch, an acquaintance. I actually had a project with him scheduled the week after he passed away, so I would have got to know him better. Still, I know that he was a skilled guitarist, but a very modest dude despite that. Apparently was alone at his house, and died at the spot due to choking on some food. Unfortunate and tragic as fuck. Hope you're resting in peace, AKM. Jeremy from the song Jeremy by Pearl Jam. He just went to the front of his English classroom and shot himself in the mouth. We also had a girl die from a brain hemorrhage due to birth control, and a boy with asthma who smoked a cigarette at a party and died. The boy was really sad because he could have been saved if someone would have called an ambulance, but everyone at the party was afraid of getting in trouble for smoking at 16. This topic kills me. I'm a teacher at a pretty large high school, and every year we have at least 3 students, past and present, that die somehow. People are always so quick to decry people who are affected by this. They weren't their real friend. They're just doing it for attention. And in a few cases they are right, but what I always see is just a bunch of kids, emotionally inexperienced and vulnerable, being faced with their own mortality, many for the first time. This year I had a student in my class attempt suicide, and just the attempt sent many students into a tailspin. Be kind, people. None of us know how a shocking lose will affect us. My best friend's girlfriend. It was awful, and it was one of the reasons we drifted apart. We lived a crappy version of Dawson's Creek. Full story below. I met my best friend on the first day of high school. It was my second school, after failing a year of prep school. He was the first man who flirted with me and actually noticed I was severely depressed. Slowly he gained my trust and friendship. Fast forward a year, this girl enters the picture. She's crazy about my friend, but he's crazy about somebody else, me. He tells me, and I tell him, that we had this weird special connection that was better than romance. In other words, I loved him, but I wasn't in love with him. He starts dating a lot. This girl suffers through all his flings and his discovery of bisexuality. My friend starts secretly dating a guy. This guy's parents find out. They break up, and I stay silent about it. Our friends eventually found out after almost 10 years. Another bout of serial dating later, and finally it's this girl's turn. Suddenly things start working out. He dates her. She doesn't mind I come and go out of the picture. He was my best friend after all. We graduate. She's still in school. The summer after graduation I go backpacking through Europe and I get a call from my dad. The girl died. She was in a car crash and she was projected through the windshield. She was pronounced dead on the scene, and a gruesome picture is splattered all over the newspapers. Shit gets real really fast. He isolates himself of anything that reminds him about her, and that includes me. Calls become emails, emails become PMs, and then eventually nothing. We are happy now, but we are no longer friends. We always schedule stuff we never get to do. He's dated several guys and girls, and I've had my share of flings. Isn't it strange how one person changes things? Never in a million years I pictured my life without both of them. I thought we had it all figured out. We were so stupid. Unfortunately, my high school had 3 people die while I was there. When I was a freshman, a senior girl died in a car wreck. She drove through the median on a highway and was hit by an 18-wheeler. When I was a sophomore, a senior guy died in a dirt bike accident. When I was a junior, one of my friends, who was a junior, died in a car wreck on a 1-lane country road. He drove into a tree. Dealing with this one sucked. I cried a lot. Edit. My high school had only about 300 students, so the deaths had a pretty big impact. Also, regarding the girl who died, her older sister died in a car wreck a few years before she did. Her older brother was murdered a few years later along with 2 other guys while they were riding ATVs and dirt bikes by a particular crazy guy's house. The youngest of the 4 siblings in this particular family is the only who lives. It's pretty insane. Let's see. The year before I went to high school, the homecoming queen died in a car accident because she was texting. My freshman year, a guy was walking with his girlfriend at night in the middle of the road and were run over. My junior year, a girl that I kinda sorta knew died from a severe seizure. Then my senior year, a guy who was a sophomore was riding his dirt bike in his backyard. The guy sometimes went into the neighboring property without permission, so those people set up a wire line as a makeshift fence. The guy rode his bike into the line and that was that. Let's start. Kid named Billy hung himself freshman year. His parents were alcoholics going through a rough divorce. His mother found him strung up in his room. Josh was a popular football player that died in a car crash 100+ miles per hour on a gravel road. Lost control and hit a tree. He'd been drinking, but no one talks about that. I say I didn't die, but he was driving behind a school bus, showing off his new license/car to his friends. Bus had to make a sudden stop, and he slammed into it. Lost a lot of memory, brain activity, and motor skills. He's now stuck at about 8 years old developmentally with no memories prior to that event. Kaylee had cystic fibrosis and took up smoking. She didn't make it to 19. John overdosed on pills after he'd been caught growing weed out of his truck. Zach committed suicide when he got his girlfriend pregnant, and they both dropped out. Donnie joined the military out of high school and was killed by an IED in Iraq. Saw it in the papers 2 years ago. Two of the most popular kids in school. Both were athletes. One was a pitcher for the varsity baseball team, the other was the captain of the varsity volleyball team. Both teams ended up going on to win the state championships in their respective sports. It was like something out of a movie. Only one person that I know of has died from my high school. He was driving through the middle school parking lot to get to the rear high school parking lot and had some kind of brain malfunction, stroke, aneurysm, I have no idea what. He managed to steer his car enough so it hit a light pole and stopped instead of careening down the hill into the marching band's practice, fell out of the car, and never woke up again. He was a grade older than me and had been in my homeroom for 3 years. Still weirds me out to think that he's dead now. Not high school, but in middle school a girl died of some form of cancer. I had gone to elementary school with her, and for some reason I have this random memory of talking to her, or being near her on picture day, waiting in line. She was honestly a sweet girl, and didn't deserve what she went through. I remember the day they announced it over the intercom in middle school. It was a dark day. Another kid in high school died in a car accident right after graduation. Well, a few weeks. I didn't talk to him, but I remember him walking around at school and he seemed like a down-to-earth guy.